Hey everybody, welcome back to another Blind Tuesdays. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. Last week we did The General, which I really loved, and um, now we're doing another film, this one being in the 70s, and this one just came on Netflix, and I checked to make sure it qualifies, and it does. It was released in 1978. That film being The Deer Hunter, which was uh, co-written and directed by Michael Cimino, who has done work in the past such as Silent Running, which I've heard many good things about, Magnum Force, as well as Lightfoot, or Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Apparently it's a Clint Eastwood film. Um, Hit the big time with The Deer Hunter, which went on to garnish some accolades and some widespread attention. Stars Robert De Niro as Michael. He is a steel worker. He works alongside his friends. Some of those friends include Christopher Walken, John Savage, as well as John Cazale. And, they're a bunch of kind of like wild dogs in a sense, like a pack of wild dogs. They're very spirited, full of energy, very aggressive, some points a bit too aggressive, particularly with John Cazale's character. They are brought on to fight in the Vietnam War, and what the film details their lives before the war and then their lives after the war. And essentially, the film is, as it sounds, it's a film about the effects of war on individuals and how each person deals with the trauma that comes with it, with war, and the fog that ultimately stays. The calm before the storm and that fog that ultimately stays, and how one deals with such a thing. And with that, you are getting a narrative that isn't hitting on any particular new ideas. I mean, the ideas in war films, the ideas of trauma and the ideas of, of mental strength and mental anguish, all those sorts of ideas, they're present in pretty much all war films because, that's the basics of war, is that it is hell and the effects are quite severe. But I think what The Deer Hunter does so well is that it paces itself to where you are just continuously invested and just completely attached to the characters, particularly that of Michael, played by Robert De Niro, who is much more lively in this than I have seen in his other work with films like King of Comedy, Taxi Driver. This is the most spirited I've seen of him in terms of performances. And it works to his benefit because, his character, he eventually settles into the De Niro that we all know and love, but that initial, taste is like, something different of De Niro. You're so used to De Niro being a specific kind of a performer, so to see him in such a lively state, it's different and it's welcoming. It's very, very, it doesn't feel out of place. It feels very good. As well as all the other performances, I found Christopher Walken to be great. Just all the other characters were very, very well developed, and the circumstance itself is very well developed. You get a sense of just how everybody, it ultimately feels like a novel, and how it's being represented. It's very detail oriented. Like there's like certain little threads here and there with each character that are earnest, and they are they give more weight as time goes on. Like something with Christopher Walken's character when it comes to Meryl Streep and his relationship with her, and then of course how that plays with Robert De Niro, and ultimately building more of who these people are, and seeing how some are more mentally strong than others, and how some are morally better people than others. There's a gray that develops when the movie gets further, and it becomes just more and more involving and just more weightful as a result. It's aesthetically pleasing, especially when the title of the film comes into play when they go out and hunt for deer. It becomes very aesthetically pleasing at those points. The score is just beautiful. I love this little guitar, little solo that they have. I think it adds a certain weight of resonance. Like I just found myself overall just really, really invested and really won over by it. It definitely gets graphic, especially when we get to the points of Vietnam. There is a point where the characters are captured, and there's a very, very disturbing game, we'll say, that is conducted quite throughout the film. And there also is, I have to warn you, there is a moment where a deer is shot in the film. And I looked into it. Apparently it was a tranquilizer, but still, I feel it's a little unwarranted to be killing or even having deers, in that state, or any animal in that state. And apparently this film was made before the "no animals were harmed" disclaimer came along. So apparently it was just perfectly fine for them to kill animals on film. So, but talking about the film proper though, I think that it is just really, really something. I really found myself really invested by it, really involved with the characters, both the characters and the performances. I found it to be tonally very captivating. And even though it isn't hitting on anything new, the approach that is taken, like there's passion that is there in its craftsmanship and its performances, and you're won over by it, So, do I think of it to be any better than, say, like Saving Private Ryan or anything like that? I wouldn't say so, but as just a piece of its own, wrestling with similar messages and similar ideas, it works really well. It just works really well for what it's bringing to the table. And this whole like chronicling, is that how you say it? Of the the prior events to then how things are afterwards. It feels like something out of Scorsese. And I looked into it, and apparently it isn't a work of Scorsese's. It's just from this particular director. Perhaps it's because De Niro's in it, and I'm just like, kind of feeling that sort of presence. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I really found myself just really involved with it, and really, really, really won over by mainly the performances and how it's handling itself. It's not to where it feels boring. It's just where it just becomes more and more investing and just more and more involving. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Deer Hunter. I thought it was pretty good. And of course, it being Blind Tuesdays, we are now going back to the wheel. Let me turn up the volume here. And we will see what next week is going to offer. So let's do it. So we're going to spin the wheel, and boom. And next week for Blind Tuesdays is going to be... a film from the 2000s. A film from the 2000s. Okay. So that's going to be next week's film, guys. So it has to be a film from the 2000s era, not genre specific, just decade specific. So, so that's the criteria for next week, guys. And that's going to be it for this review. Thank you guys for joining in. Let me know your thoughts on The Deer Hunter if you guys have seen it in the comment section below. And let me know your picks for next week's film. It has to be a 2000s film, guys. That's the criteria. And yeah, so that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video.